Hello and welcome to episode 16 of Some Like It Real. I'm Bryan.
And I'm Veronica.
And we're two cinephiles who love to talk movies and TV.
We have weekly episodes discussing the newest films and TV shows, creating lists and drafts, and keeping you updated on the latest movie headlines and awards races.
As a reminder, please like, rate, and subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms, which helps more people find the show.
And share it with cinephiles in your life.
Veronica and I have something very different for you this week. We're primarily a movie podcast, but a lot of our favorite TV shows have new seasons this year, and we want to bring some TV talk to the pod.
Yes, we'll be having chats about some of our favorite TV shows and also Euphoria. But today's discussion will center around HBO Max's The Pitt, which just concluded its second season.
That's right. We'll talk about the second season overall, but this is also a live reaction to the finale for us since we just finished watching this episode minutes ago. Time of recording, the finale just concluded literally a half hour ago, so this is very fresh in our mind.
Yeah. We are channeling that fast-paced energy of the emergency department into this instant reaction pod.
We need 20 cc's of hot take stat, but first, we need to fill out our patient passports. So, Veronica, what was your relationship to The Pitt going into season 2?
Yeah, so The Pitt is very unique in the way that it is filmed and the way that it's released. Normal TV landscape doesn't really have this anymore, where it's 15 episode seasons. The first one premiered last year around January, winter, and then the next one was exactly a year later, which doesn't happen all the time these days. So, for me, it had come out, early last year. Heard about it, and it was like a hospital show. I have never been an ER person, Grey's Anatomy. I've never been into any of the hospital, long-running shows. I heard about it. I was like, okay, but probably not my thing. Not really going to check it out or anything. And I guess it got probably like halfway through the run or so. And like the buzz for it was just constant. There were so many critics and just fans and everyone who I tend to, have similar taste to. And they were like, this one is really cool. It's really doing something different. And I was like, I guess I just have to try it. It was just so popular. So, delved into the first season watched most of the season as a binge. Like, I think I probably, like I said, there's 15 episodes. I think I was caught up in real time by, like, the last 3 or 4 or so. So that was a unique way to, like, just sort of immerse yourself in it. And as we'll talk about with The Pitt, it is happening pretty much all in real time. Might be some, tricks here and there, or some shortcuts, but happening real time in a shift in the emergency department in Pittsburgh with this cast of characters. And so, I think it maybe took me several episodes to get into it the first time, but you just kind of get swept up in the energy of it. I think it helped for me that it was, my issue with like procedural hospital shows was that like, a patient could be introduced, they have this issue, it's kind of either resolved or whatever, moved on from like by the end of the hour. And that's just always unfulfilling to me to be so formulaic. But with this, the fact that you are watching a whole day play out in pretty much real time, it gives time for things to develop and to forget about certain things and they come back later. So I just think this was so successful just as a TV show. It keeps me coming back every week. I was so caught up with the first one and then was completely ready for the second one and very excited for it. But what about you, Bryan? Do you have the same experience?
I had the literal same experience as you. I heard about The Pitt.
Yeah.
The buzz was so high. And I was like, okay, I gotta see what all the hubba is about. I jumped into it. I binged the first 10 to 11 episodes in like 3 days, and I was able to catch up by like episode 11 or 12 live, and I was watching it throughout the rest of the season live as it was unfolding. And I admittedly am not a medical show guy either. The only medical show other than this that I genuinely like is Scrubs, which is obviously a tonally different show from this. That's a very funny medical series with elements of drama sprinkled throughout and everything. And funny enough, it just came back, which was really, really fun and everything. So The Pitt really had my curiosity, not only because of the acclaim that was surrounding it, but also the structure of it really took my attention, and the fact that it was separating itself from every other medical drama that we had ever received up until this point. Instead of it being a new patient or new cases per week, it's one day, as you said, 15-hour shift, basically set in real time, and it gives you a lot of development for these characters, and it's so different from anything that I had really seen on television. It really is essentially 24 set in the hospital, which to some people could feel very overwhelming because 24 is a very exhilarating watch, considering that that's 24 episodes, 1 hour each, and set in real time, similar to this, except instead of out there in the real world, it's just in this hospital, so you're confined into this space and following all these characters. And I was really, really blown away with season one, and I was really excited to see what they were going to do with season two. I was curious if they were going to hit the sophomore slump or if they were going to outdo themselves. And did they outdo themselves, Veronica?
I think so. I think this is pretty much just as strong as the first one. You know, it's a little hard to like blow people away because as we're saying, this is something that's was felt pretty new and unique, or actually more. It felt like a bit of a throwback, but in a more updated way. So I think that first season has a little bit of edge just for being like a surprise. But I really think they did it in season two. I think that they continued their projects and complicated characters and moved things forward, and I think they really nailed it here.
I agree. I thought this was a pretty fantastic season. It took a while for me to really get on board with it. It was kind of similar to season one where things were starting off a little slow, but understandably so. You're trying to build the season out. You're trying to tell us where these characters have been over a period of time. I think it's important to point out that we jump ahead a couple of months and it's set during the 4th of July, which when they announced that, I was like, that is a very interesting choice to set it during one of the most
we get our
chaotic.
fair share of 4th of July injuries definitely are featured here.
Exactly. And yeah, I mean, they took some swings with this season. I think the last, I would say, 5 episodes of the season were really outstanding. And I really loved a lot of the decisions that were made here. I thought the acting, like, was even better this time around. The writing, the directing. It's really impressive whenever you watch a medical show and how these actors, who are obviously not medical professionals in real life, they speak this dialogue very quickly, and I'm like, how the fuck can you do that? Like, you must flub it so many times for you to not mistake it, because I could never. Just hearing them talk about these various things, I'm like, what are you even saying? Like, how are you even doing it? But no, genuinely, this was a really impressive season. It's crazy how fast these last 15 weeks flew by. And considering that you and I didn't watch the entirety of the first season live as it was going, and we stuck with this season all the way from when it dropped in January till now, it's insane how exhilarating this season was, but more so how quick this went by. It feels like the season just started yesterday and now it's over.
Yeah, I think that's a feature of the like just one day thing too, because there are like these micro interactions or facial expressions or whatever can get so like analyzed and everything because you're waiting a week in between and it's only an hour for the characters on the show. So like we still feel like we're living in that same day that we started in January, and it just makes it all feel like very, very urgent. And it's you've got characters in the background of scenes, characters and extras too. I've heard in a lot of interviews them talk about like the work that these extras put in, because you just have to be like looking realistic pretty much any time that people are filming. It's such an open set and everything sort of interacts. So yeah, it's a really exciting show that I think that they pulled it off for a second time, and we'll see if they can do it again with 3. But for now, we can get into the second. But what do you think for like we said, we caught up with the first season after it had started. I've talked to some people that I know who I'm like, I think you would like the Pitt. Like they've heard of it, but maybe haven't really gotten into it. And like we said, it kind of could just get lost in the shuffle of like, oh, that's a new medical drama, like whatever. But like, what do you think? How would you characterize the show? How would you like convince someone who or explain the kind of viewer who would enjoy this?
Well, I've pitched this show to various groups of people, like my friends in real life. I remember I told my parents about the show before I even watched it myself, because My parents were around during the ER period, and of course, they loved Noah Wiley on that show. It's important to bring up that he got his start on a medical show, and then he kind of did various television shows throughout, and then he kind of had a career resurgence with this show, which, was essentially a full circle moment for him. He started out on a medical show, and now he's doing another medical show where we see this different side of him, all these different layers of him now since he's much older and he's seasoned and he's a bit of a veteran. But the way that I've pitched this show to people is basically, yes, it is a medical show, but it has a different spin. And I do essentially explain that each season takes place over the course of one day. Each episode is 1 hour of a shift and everything. And they're like, okay, that's very enticing. Because, again, we have dozens and dozens and dozens of medical shows on TV right now. We have shows that have been running for more than a decade. I mean, Grey's Anatomy has been on for literally like 25 years, and it's still doing the same thing. And for some reason, people still watch it, and you know what? That's great and everything. But I love the fact that this show, even though you said that it kind of feels like a bit of a throwback to maybe the classic medical drama that we got in the 80s and 90s, it feels fresh because of the approach that it took. So that's how I've been pitching it to people. But also, I do warn people that it is a very difficult watch. There are certainly many sequences, both in season 1 and particularly in season 2, especially with this last episode, where I'm like, I said this on a recent pod where I don't really easily kind of hold myself back. I get a little uncomfortable sometimes when I watch certain things, but there were certainly moments throughout this season that genuinely made me uncomfortable because of how realistically everything was portrayed. So,
You mean the medical gore or the emotional trauma? Or both?
yes.
Yes, all.
Mainly the medical stuff. The medical stuff is because honestly, a lot of the medical shows that I've seen throughout my life are, prime time, so you can only go so far with that. But here, because it's on a streaming service, you could really just go for it. And I appreciate that the show isn't too grotesque to where it's rubbing it in your face. It knows exactly when to do it and when to shy away from it. But I always just tell people, listen, it's 24 in a hospital. And for some people, that's no thanks. That sounds overwhelming. And I'm like, it is, but it's rewarding. Trust me.
Yeah, and I never watched 24, but I kind of get the sense that I think the Pit is a little more grounded. I think that
100%.
There's probably,
There's no action sequences in the Pit.
Yeah, and it's you could see where you have to stretch that out if they could go more over the top if they want to, but for the most part, I am clearly not a doctor, but it seems that the gore of the medical procedures, the intensity of the caseload and everything like that, from what I've heard from other medical professionals who watch the show and talk about it, that it is very, very realistic. It does a pretty good job of nailing the realism of that, but marrying it with these character arcs and having it's not like a documentary. It's got real human drama going on too, or scripted human drama, I should say. But I would let people know that. I would let them know that there's sort of something I bumped up against in a little bit in the first season, but have now sort of grown to love, is that the writing of the show, like I said, on a character level, I think is really good for the most part. I think there are a lot of stop, look at the camera, explain a medical issue that's going on in this country or some sort of systemic, which, listen, I'm almost always on board with every point of view that they have coming for that, whether it's, how medical staff is treated by patients, about insurance issues in this country. There are a host of issues that they get into last season and this season. And I think that's very worthwhile. I think in the beginning I was this is a little, it's kind of aggressive with that. It's kind of, it's not very subtle. But I actually, since the first season came out, I think that there have been a lot of medical professionals talking and saying that this has actually been a really helpful show in the medical world, that people are more informed about things. They're a little more, considerate or aware of things that they wouldn't be. Some people are a little more inspired to go into medicine and everything. And I'm it's, who can fault an awkward couple lines of dialogue if it's gonna really have this real world effect. So I it's sort of some people might not love that to be stuck in the middle of their TV show, but to me I just kind of I take it with the whole Pitt package now, and I kind of think that it's worth it.
I agree. I completely agree with that sentiment. Because when you watch television or film or consume any form of entertainment, of course, you don't want to be reminded of what's going on in the real world and everything. You want to shut your brain off and just focus on what's happening on the screen. But
Well, no, just not
again,
reminded so like with like blinking red
yes,
lights, you know, like to
right,
be more
exactly.
more subtly or more character
Exactly.
driven. Sometimes they really like stop and explain like this is the issue in the medicine
Yeah,
community.
because I hate to say it, there are people that watch this show that don't know what's happening in the world. That's
Mhm.
the unfortunate truth when it comes to watching these shows that deal with like medical and law and all these other types of things going on in the world and everything. But I think this show does a really beautiful job of explaining everything to you without dumbing it down too much. And, going back to the medical professionals thing that you brought up before, I was reading a while back that the two shows that are based around medicine that medical professionals have hailed as the most accurate, shockingly, are Scrubs and this.
Oh, really?
So which I think is great. That it's a one-two punch, and it was for me. And not to get too off topic or anything, but
Mhm.
Scrubs came back, after many many years over the last few months, and yesterday, time for recording, it wrapped up its season and everything. So it was really great spending two back-to-back nights with my favorite medical shows. One was a very lighthearted, feel good medical show, and the other was the most bleak, depressing thing ever. So it was great to see these two different sides of what ER life is like. And yeah, it's really incredible to where you have a show like this that is so embraced by the professionals that this show is honoring and respecting and paying tribute to. And, a lot of them, they recognize their faults and everything. Like, I've seen some reports from medical professionals saying that the show is not perfect. Of course it's not. It's a television show. Like, of course
Mhm.
it's not going to be accurate to what's going on in your normal life, but it finds a way of paving the line to paying respect to it and doing it in a way that doesn't feel like it's staged and gimmicky to the point where you sometimes forget that you're watching actors. You feel like you're actually watching doctors. Like, none of these guys are medical professionals. I know that Noah Wiley is not a doctor, but there are so many instances throughout these two seasons where I'm like, you know, if I need help, I need to go to Dr. Robbie. I think Dr. Robbie could help me out, hopefully.
Yeah, really. Like I would trust him even though he's literally just an actor, but they all sort of like have that gravitas now.
Exactly.
Yeah, should we get into the issue our spoiler warning and just say that, if you haven't watched The Pit yet, we definitely recommend it. It's a 15-hour watch for this season, but we think it's worth it. So,
100%. Yeah, let's rip off the band-aid and break down some
mhm.
spoilers. So it's obviously a big task to cover a 15 episode season. So we'll do a brief overview of the characters that we followed throughout the season, and there are so many. There are a lot of characters. So where do we begin?
Yeah, well, we had some new additions to the cast this year, and they had a big impact on the story this season. So let's start with some of the newbies to the pit. So I would say sort of the inciting incident of this season is that we follow Dr. Robbie into work, but then we're immediately confronted with Dr. Al Hashimi, who is going to be the new attending, sort of taking over for Robbie as he's going to be going on a 3-month sabbatical. So this is a new person. I think that Dr. Hashimi has served as a really great foil for Robbie. Like as soon as we're getting to know her and seeing them interact with different cases, Robbie is more of like medically as a doctor. He's more of like a cowboy. He's more of like I'm gonna do the crazy thing that's gonna like save this person, and Al Hashimi is much more by the book. And so we start to get hints throughout the season of an illness that she's suffering from. We get some answers for that later in the season. That first comes up with Baby Jane Doe, and let's just say we have Baby Jane Doe has become a celebrity in her own right for
Little
Dana's
baby Jane
pronunciation.
Doe.
Baby Jane Doe. That has been so entertaining to watch everyone interact with that. But yeah, so Al Hashimi, how did you feel about that introduction and her sort of challenging, respecting, having this sort of complicated dynamic with Robbie?
I really like the way you emphasize of how Robbie is very much a cowboy and does essentially like, yeah, he follows the book, but he adds his own little spin to it by kind of doing something that makes him feel comfortable. And then Aoshimi is very much by the book and everything. And from the moment that we are introduced to her, we could tell that she's a very motivated, driven doctor. But then not only does she do stuff by the book, but then she also tries to add a spin. Like early on in the season, like very early on, we learned that she has this little device to where AI is used to like track down all these things that are going on in patients, which was already like, and that was addressed like in episode one. That was like immediately
Mhm.
we're jumping into something that's unfortunately very timely of what's going on in the world right now. So I like how she was a great foil to Robbie and everything, and their back and forth throughout the season has been really interesting because there have been periods where we were like, oh, are they finally gonna get along? Are they finally going to work together and everything? But then as soon as it all comes together, it's like, nope, that you start screaming and going down each other's throats. And I think that her arc was so fascinating because, you know, as Robbie establishes early on in the season that he's going on a sabbatical, 3 months, much needed for him and everything. He wants to make sure that his ER is in good hands while he's gone and everything. And throughout the entirety of the season, and understandably so, he questions if she's the right person to take over everything while he's gone. So I think that her arc, there were periods where I'm like, I don't quite know how I feel, but I thought that the way her arc started was really strong. And I think that towards the end, especially these last 2 episodes, I was really compelled by her arc. And, we'll talk about this later on, but I just want to shout out that the performances throughout this entire season are outstanding. And I mean, I don't know who my favorite would be. She's honestly up there for me, especially in the last episode. I'm like, yeah, she's like delivering monumental work, and she does a lot of through her eyes, which I really took notice. I don't know if you noticed that, but as I was watching the season slowly pan out, there would be moments where she just wouldn't say anything, but she would convey with her face of how she was feeling. And it was really beautiful acted from her. But regarding her arc, I really loved it overall, even though a little bit throughout the season it was fizzling. And I was like, okay, we get it. You're going down Santos's throat, doing this and everything. You're on top of Langton and you're doing all these other things. But overall, I thought her arc was quite great.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned her eyes for sure. I was noticing that, and then the penultimate episode that ended with her like presenting her medical issue to Robbie. I saw someone said that there was like they were having like a sad puppy dog brown eye competition. Like they
Yeah.
both just like were so they both are so expressive that way and everything. And yeah, I think that it definitely did kick off with it being a little bit like, and especially because as we said, there's this after the first season, I think everyone really like glommed onto these characters in a big way and like feel very protective over them, have big opinions about them, and like this is this new person coming in and making changes. And I think she suggests not calling it the Pit anymore because it's like a derogatory name. And
Yeah.
I think they kind of purposely start her off a little bit like rubbing the wrong way. And introducing the AI, which I don't. I mean, obviously, I'm very, very opposed to AI in any creative use and things like that. I'm not quite sure what the standard is now. Like, I think it is being used in medical spaces and like has some better uses that way. Like, I don't know that that wasn't necessarily fully explored or like explained or anything, but I appreciated like her bringing that perspective, but also it was clear that like we can't be relying on AI all the time. It makes mistakes at some point in the season that has an issue with someone's chart. So I think that was all. It was definitely like it was presented. It was a little bit challenged, and so we see that she's willing to sort of like raise these issues and it like is gonna go about her work in the way that like she feels it needs to be done. So yeah, she was a really strong character that I think had a pretty vast arc for this season, coming in as a new person.
Yeah, I'll say this, like not to jump around or anything, but since we're so focused on this character right now, I just want to say this. Her last scene when she left the parking lot and the car stopped, I literally thought that she was having a seizure and I got scared. I actually really got scared. I'm like, please don't end her arc like this because that would be so devastating. But her just breaking down in tears in the car was all the more effective. And what's the
Yeah, and
actress's name? What's
that's
what's her
really
name? I
oh,
totally forgot her name.
I
It's
believe it's Sepide Moafi. I don't know if I'm
incredible
pronouncing
work,
that correctly, but yeah,
phenomenal
she's
work.
really amazing, and that really is like a great. arc to see that we've actually probably seen play out more so with Patience, where we see her being so competent, so smart, so put
Hmm.
together, like she's so on top of her shit, and like the fact that she just has this medical issue that can jeopardize all that, and like it doesn't matter how hard she works or how smart she is, like the fact that this medical issue could get in the way and ruin your career in some way, and so
Hmm.
we're I think when she stops the car there and breaks down a little bit, I think we're just kind of seeing the weight of that, like really
Yeah.
hitting her. She's trying so hard to convince Dr. Robbie it's gonna be fine. She's gonna push through it, whatever. But it's ultimately sometimes there's nothing you can do.
Yeah. Do we think that she'll be back? There's no confirmation or denying that she's coming back, but do we think that this is the end of her story?
I think she'll be back. I definitely hope so. I mean, the explanation she provided to him that like there would just have to be another attending, like that seems plausible to me. That seems like a way to get some of the night shift doctors more screen time, perhaps.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think that she's been built up enough that it would make sense to continue her story.
Yeah. And speaking of new characters, we had a few new residents and nurses, including Joy, Ogilvy, and Emma. So, what were your thoughts on these three new characters that we were introduced to?
So Joy, I think it took a few episodes to get acclimated to her. She was very like she's on her phone all the time. She seemed kind of disinterested. But then it sort of peels away that like she's very smart. She's not particularly interested in emergency medicine, and that she is a work life balance queen, which you got to respect the hell out of when she just like goes home at the end of her shift when everyone else is going to be charting for hours. So that was an interesting perspective too, and an interesting character. Like I think that she definitely was like she's like not going to go above and beyond, but she knew her shit and she did what she had to do. And that's we are seeing all of these other characters dealing with burnout and mental health issues and killing themselves to do this really important job. And like that was she was a cool character to like kind of represent a different way of thinking about it. Like this is important, but it's not my life. It's just one part of my life. And so I thought she was a cool character for that. Ogilvy, ooh, he was a tough sit. He was a long day. He is extremely cocky. He's judgmental of patients' conditions. By the end of the season, he is humbled a lot. He is definitely brought down a peg and is also considering if he still wants to be in emergency medicine. And then Emma is the new nurse that's starting. She's sort of shadowing Dana for most of the day. She's very eager and she remains resilient even after she's attacked by a patient. And seemed the most like sort of sure of herself by the end of the day. Like it seems like she would definitely definitely make sense if she was back. And seemed like this was maybe the place for her. Yeah. What were your impressions of those three?
I honestly, I have nothing really to add about them three. It took me a while to like Joy, but I kind of like the feistiness of her and everything. I liked when what did she do? She accidentally like injected herself with something, or she got caught with a needle, and then they had to get like blood work done from her or something. Like, do you remember that was
Yeah, I'm
so
trying to
early
remember
in the
now. That was early in the
season?
season.
Like,
Yeah, and they like she kind of had to become a patient and be monitored
yeah.
for a little bit.
Yeah, I
But yeah,
liked that brief little, and I loved her goodbye. She was just like, "I'm out of here, bye," and then she just dipped. I respect that very much. Ogilvy, I'll be honest, I didn't really like Ogilvy that much, and maybe we weren't supposed to like him. I don't know. I
oh,
agree
I
with
don't think
you.
so. Yeah.
I agree with you to where he definitely humbled down a little bit. I kind of liked that last sequence with him and Whitaker outside and everything, but ultimately to me, if that's a character I never see again, I'm not gonna care all that much. Now, if they do bring him back, I'd be interested to see what they do with him going forward. And then I think Emma was my favorite of the three new characters of this batch of characters, and I really liked her Shadow and Dana. I really liked the dynamic between the two of them, where Dana is like the mother of this entire ER, and she's not just a mother to like the nurses and everything. She's essentially the mother to every single person that is working in the pit and everything. And to see her so protective of Emma was really, really wonderful. And when Emma got attacked by that patient, that was a really scary sequence that unfortunately mirrored what happened to Dana in season one when she was assaulted by that one patient and everything. So,
Hmm.
a very effective arc, and a lot of the more effective moments throughout the season Emma was actually there for, including that one the one victim who was raped and everything and assaulted. That was halfway through the season. And then, of course, this patient that got assaulted. And then that homeless patient that we met super early on in the season. And then she helped cut his hair and shave him and make him feel clean and kind of embrace who he is and everything. So I think
She was
that
there with Dana after Louis' death to clean his body and everything,
after
and that was
Oh
a
man,
big moment for her.
Louis' death is something that
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to recapping that and everything. That was definitely one of the emotional moments of the entire season for me, Shirley. But yeah, I think that Emma was a great character. I liked Joy. Ogilvy, give or take.
I'd be curious if we get like a small dose of Ogilvy like in a future season or something. Like if he's not back, but like I don't know. I'd be curious to see if he like moved on and it feels like he's all high and mighty again, or if he like really took everything to heart from this day. That it could be interesting to kind of have a follow up with him at some point.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, and then we can move on to so those were the new residents and nurses. They got some airtime. I feel like there's been this kind of ongoing discourse with the night shift staff and those doctors because I think they're just really popular as they usually like are sort of there for the handoff at the beginning of the shift and then pop in at the later shift. I do get the sense that they're trying to like work them in more organically throughout the day because I think they're just really popular characters. We have Dr. Abbott, Dr. Ellis, Dr. Shen, and then Mateo is the nurse who I believe was on the day shift last year. He had the kind of flirtation with Javati, and
Yes.
then he was on the night shift this year. So we got to see him towards the end. So yeah, I think everyone is really begging for a night shift spinoff. I kind of think like they're such favorites because they have limited screen time, and we get to just like see them pop up. They snuck Dr. Abbott in there a little extra by having him come in with a patient as I think he was a volunteer SWAT member or something like that,
Yes.
working with, and there was a shootout, and so he's there for that. You needed him there for the extra interaction with Robbie to see him observe Dr. Al-Hashimi, to get that awesome scene when he's shirtless with Dr. Mohan. Mohabit is a very popular ship online from what I can tell. Have not participated, just from what I can tell. And so he definitely, like, he needed to be there throughout the season as sort of, like, this extra presence, as someone that Robbie, like, will open up to somewhat. And then Dr. Ellis is there because she's involved in Mel's deposition. And then Dr. Shen, he drinks Duncan. So that's all we really know about him, but he seems delightful.
Dr. Abbott, hard smash. Oh my god. So hot. Jesus Christ. That shirt, that scene where he was shirtless, that was for all of us. So
Crazy.
thank you, creators.
Offering to pay for the Uber to take the supplies to the... Come on, that's crazy.
And it gave us that iconic shot of Robbie walking by, just like looking at what was happening.
Walking by, like Bigfoot walking by or something.
That picture floated around
Yeah.
social media that entire week after that episode aired up until whenever the next one aired. That's all I was seeing for a week, and I was not bored of that at all. But yeah, I like the night shift. I like that they're not in the entirety of the season. I appreciate that we have that little time with them early on in the season, and then they come back a little later on in the season and everything, because I think what makes them so beloved is, like you said, they come and go and everything. Like, we're not there the whole time with them. And I get the impression that a lot of people are clamoring for a night shift spinoff show where we follow these characters and everything. I don't really want that personally. I don't know if that's a hot take. I like the capacity that we get these characters. It makes me think of, like, whenever I watch a movie or a TV show and a supporting character kind of gets the spotlight and all the fanfare, and then they give them the opportunity to headline their own film or project, and then the results are so middling because we appreciate them a lot more in the smaller capacity that they had in where they came from originally. Not to say that this is a valid comparison, and I cannot believe I'm making this comparison, but it made me think of the Minions. The Minions were at their strongest when they had little to do in those first few Despicable Me movies, and then once they became the favorites and they got their own movies and everything, I'm like, I am tired of them. I'm not saying that that's what would happen with the night shift people, but that's the
No,
impression that I
that's a
get.
pretty apt comparison. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah, I think I'm seeing a lot of people advocate for like if we could have 2 seasons a year and like we see the night shift, we see the day shift. I don't know how possible that is with how much they have to film and everything, but I'm like the only thing that I could see is maybe it would be cool to like start off a season with the night shift, like we see them at the end of their shift, and then it would be kind of
Yeah,
like exciting for like, oh, we know our day shift people are coming in any minute, and
right.
that could kind of be an interesting like handoff. I wouldn't want like half and half. Like we
Yeah.
need our day shift people, but
No, absolutely. That's a great way of doing that. I think that would be a really cool idea for the next season if that it opens up and we instead of starting on Robbie, for example, we start off already in the hospital and we see the night shift people, then maybe like 5 or 10 minutes go by and then that's when Robbie and the other day shift people start coming in and everything. I think that would be a really cool approach to it and everything.
it could be cool. Yeah, but you still run into the issue that the more screen time these people get, like they're we're gonna get into more with Robbie and other characters, but I sort of think that he is someone who I wouldn't say fans turned on him, but obviously we saw him takes like a real, de-evolution this season and have like a really struggling time. Like the more that you get to know these people, like they're gonna have flaws. They're not gonna be like the fun people who pop in every once in a while. Like we will know some deep dark secrets about Dr. Shen beyond just he likes his iced coffee. So, it's everybody would get more complicated, which could be a
Right.
good thing if it's handled well.
Right. Now, characters that I would say that I personally don't have as much to say about as much as other characters are the other nurses. We have Princess, Perla, Jesse, and Donnie. I would say the one for me that I definitely have the most to say is about Jesse. Now, when this season began, I mean, obviously, I don't know what direction they're going to go into when the season begins and everything. So, halfway through the season, when the ICE storyline came up, which
Yeah.
that I did not expect them to even tackle that in this show. And
I
I'm
had
really
heard
glad
about
that
it a
they
little
did.
bit already beforehand, so I knew it was
Yeah,
coming in some
I was
form.
avoiding like every detail about this season prior. The only thing I had known about it was that it was set on the 4th of July. That's the
Mhm.
pretty much the only thing I had known. I didn't watch any trailers. I went in completely blind. And so I feel like these nurses don't get as much time to shine as the doctors do and everything. But whenever the nurses are on screen, I definitely enjoy seeing them. I love Perla. I'm a huge Perla fan. I really, really adore her very much. But with Jesse, when he got taken by ICE, I was kind of bummed that we didn't see him, in this last episode and everything. But I'm sure, like, as soon as the day was over, they went to go get him and everything. So,
I think they mentioned at some point he was probably going to be held over the weekend because of the
that's
holiday
right.
and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, so yeah, that is also the nature of the format of the show too. That like if someone is leaving for something, you're kind of like doing the math. Like, are we going to get to see them again this season,
Right.
or are they like out for the day? And that's all you're going to get.
Right, exactly, exactly. And I mean, the nurses are always great additions. Like they're great. I just don't have a ton to add about them because they're not given a ton to do compared to the other doctors, and of course Dana, who is the main nurse that gets all the attention and everything. So, do you have anything to add with these nurses?
Yeah, definitely for Jesse, the main shout out there is the ice storyline, and the fact that I think it's sort of interesting that we didn't actually see the altercation, so we don't necessarily know what happened exactly, but it's the we can get into it as we talk about more of the issues brought up throughout the season, but like you just know from the very presence of ice there that it is sort of antagonizing everybody there. It's all immediately creating issues with patients and staff not feeling safe there and needing to leave. So just the fact that Jesse was sort of the one who took the blow there and showed how escalatory that can get. That you take this nurse who is literally saving lives every day and they're throwing him in jail for who knows what. So yeah, I think that was one of the probably the most buzzy and important storylines that we had. And then Perla, definitely agree. I love Perla. She's I feel like she is getting a little bit more screen time. I feel like she's in a lot of interactions. I think that she was maybe one of the most of the staff who seemed affected by Louis and his death. I think she was
Yeah.
like there every step of the way with his care. And when they have this sort of like service for him afterwards, I feel like that was really like weighing on her a little bit extra. Donnie was fun to see him like talk about being a new dad. He had that scene with Langdon and the father who brought in their child who got something stuck up their nose or something, and they were like
Oh
kind of
yeah.
have that moment to like talk about fatherhood, there's one he mentioned something about like I have a crying baby at home, like nothing really bothers me. And then there's one scene where like someone lets out like a blood curdling scream, and you see him just like going about his business, like completely unbothered. And
I had to
we're
rewind. I
yeah,
rewinded that moment like 4 times. That was so funny. I remember.
yeah. And my boyfriend are like, oh yeah, he's got a screaming baby at home. Like this is like a Tuesday to him. This
Yeah,
doesn't
he
even
can
matter.
handle anything.
Yeah. So yeah, I think he just has like a really great like warm presence and everything. And then
Right.
Princess is an icon. I'm so glad she won her money in the pool, even if she had insider
Oh,
information.
I love
She's
the
innocent.
pools that they do. I'm so glad that they brought that back. That was one of the funniest
That's fun,
elements of
yeah.
season one. So I thought it was really cool that they brought that back too. And I wonder what they're gonna do for the next one.
Yeah, if there's gonna be some other great tragedy that they can bet on. But yeah, you mentioned Nurse Dana. I think she's definitely the most primary nurse that we have featured in the story. So what do she's obviously someone that we had last year. You mentioned she got assaulted and was sort of questioning her place in the ED and everything. Then like, how did you feel about her journey this season?
Oh my god. I mean, it it was really riveting to see her journey, especially, she comes back after this horrible thing that happened to her many months prior. And even though we jump ahead, it's 10 months,
I
right?
think it's a 10-month jump.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's a 10-month jump. I mean, it comes to show how something like that is never going to leave her mindset, and
Yeah.
how she's so protective of everybody in the ED, especially the nurses. Like, I mean, there's also that one moment, going back to Emma for a second, where she's walking and the patient grabs her arm
Yeah.
and she flips out on this patient and everything, as she should and everything. And you think about what had happened to her prior. And, again, she has this motherly feeling to her where I think Langdon made a comment saying, like, oh, she is scary, but she's like soft on the inside or something. Like, what was the exact, you know what I'm talking
That
about?
sounds familiar. Yeah. I'm trying to remember. I think it was Abbott who said like you're the like mother 10 here or something like
Yeah.
that. But yeah. Yeah, she's
And
definitely like she's like hard talking, but like is obviously very caring and compassionate for
oh,
all
a
of her
hundred
staffs.
percent. Like, she has so much love and care for everybody in that ED, and she's willing to go, you know, against the grain to protect her fellow doctors and nurses in any way. I mean, some of the things that she does in this season are technically not allowed to be done in the ED, but it just comes to show again how far she's willing to go to protect everybody. And I think her arc was outstanding, and obviously a lot of it has to, again, not to jump ahead or anything, but Catherine Lanassa's performance as Dana is so devastatingly raw. And, it's such a multi layer performance, too, because, again, she's very serious. She's heartbreaking, and she's also funny. And,
She
you know,
cracks a lot of jokes,
a
like probably
lot
more
of
than
jokes.
anyone.
A lot of jokes. And also shout out that incredible Pittsburgh accent. Like, the accent work from
Baby
her is
Jane Doe.
impeccable. Baby Jane Dell. It's really outstanding stuff from her. And, one of the best moments of the entire season is, after she's cleaned up that victim and everything, she's in the room and she's crying and everything. And right there was when I went, you know what, she's winning another Emmy. Again, not to jump ahead or anything, but that moment right there, I'm like, she's going for Emmy number two.
Yeah, yeah. Just to go off of that, just that patient for a minute, like the way that she conducts that entire scene where they're doing the collection for the rape kit and everything, and it is just she's so like she's clinical. She's like explaining exactly what's going to happen in very clear terms, but she's so caring. She's so gentle. Like it is like more jarring from like her normal presence where she's out on the desk, screaming at everybody and making jokes and everything. Like just the layers there are just it's so important. Like obviously it's a wonderful performance and a wonderful character, but you do start to think about like God, like healthcare workers just have to do that all the time. Like they
Yeah.
have to really like you know take like the rawest part of themselves and like be super allow someone to be vulnerable with them, and then also flip on a dime and like be super fast thinking and just all of that. She just demonstrates that like better than anyone, I think. And I think it was really smart to pair her with a new person this year, to pair her with Emma, like shadowing her, because I think that you definitely got the sense that it had been building for a while, but the events of last season were like really shaking her need to be there. Like she was really feeling like maybe I'm done, maybe I'm ready for retirement. I don't know that I can do this anymore. And I feel like there was something about Emma's, maybe naivete, but also sort of like optimism, that she was so like willing and ready to learn, and was such a good student that way. I feel like that's sort of like you could kind of see that like reinvigorating Dana a little bit
Yeah.
after being so disillusioned. So there's that, and then there's also she just had some really great interactions with Robbie, and the particularly smart thing about that is that it ramps up towards the end of the season. But I kind of like that, again, taking advantage of the format. You see them like have these altercations that are quite a big like fight compared to the normal day in and day out conversations we're seeing, but it's very realistic in the sense that like, and then it flares up again the next episode. It's like it's not like you just have one perfectly scripted fight and then it's done. It's like these things keep like bugging at her, and like she keeps kind of like checking in with Robbie and then getting mad at him, and all of these ways that like she is just constantly on the ball and kind of aware of everybody else and their mental status, and she's just like the heartbeat of the emergency room and of the whole show.
Yeah, and you brought up an interesting point about the format. Like if this was a regular medical show where like we have this episode where they would fight, and then next week it jumps ahead like 2 weeks later, the impact wouldn't land. And because the next episode's that it just happened and now it still feels very fresh, it makes
It's
it
still
all
raw,
the more,
yeah.
yeah, it still makes it so raw. And I really, yeah, she, incredible work from her this season. Just really monumental stuff. A character that I feel didn't have a ton to work with this season compared to last season is Cassie McKay. I liked McKay in season 1, and I liked her arc in season 1 where, she had the anklet bracelet, and we were like, what's the deal with this woman? What's going on with her? And she's a single mom, of course, and she has her kid to deal with and all these other things that are going on with her. This season, admittedly, I don't think she had a ton to work with. Now, my favorite element of her arc was when she had that patient who had, again, I don't remember what illnesses these patients have and everything, but
Was
when
it
she was,
Roxy and her family who was dying? I think it was some sort of cancer, but
yeah,
I
some
don't
sort
remember
of
the details.
cancer. She was a mom with 2 young kids, and her husband was her caregiver and everything. And those were the more emotional sequences that were involved McKay this season. That was a really good, like, that was like almost half of the season, if not more than half of the season that we dealt with that particular arc. And then we had that little arc where she was treating patients outside the hospital, and she took Ogilvy with her at one point. Then Robbie, of course, grills her. Then we'll get to Robbie. Don't worry. There's a lot to be said with him. But McKay, I mean, yeah, she didn't have a ton to work with this season, which, again, like, there's so many characters, and, 15 episodes may be a lot, but because there's so much happening, you can only do so much with these
Right.
characters and everything. So I think that I like McKay. I like her. I like the bangs that she had. I liked that look on her. But ultimately, like, her arc was fine. Nothing terrible, nothing great, but the moments that were great within her arc, I really, really loved.
Yeah, I do think she got a bit sidelined, and like you said, it understandably, it's not like she was totally like shoved to the side or anything, but it just seemed like other things kind of took precedent. So I mean, she got a date at the beginning of the season, which I don't think she got to go on because they were all there much later than anticipated. But good for her. Maybe that'll come through in some other way. And then yeah, for sure, the highlight for her is everything with Roxy and her family, like the interaction she has with her son when he's not sure if he wants to go into the room to say goodbye to his mom. That was just the conversation she has there. And again, she also, like we said with Dana, I think she demonstrates that like gentleness very, very well, where, she's just kind of explaining to him that you do what you want. Like it is totally, your decision, but I do think that you'll might regret it like farther down the road. And that was like a really important conversation. And there was a moment when she was talking to Roxy, like just them in the room, and there was like a really great shot of like them in the room, but you can kind of like see the reflection of like the emergency department outside and like everyone just going about their business. And it's like she is in here with this woman who is like contemplating her mortality and is like right up against death, and Cassie is right there with her and like talking her through that, thinking about it, what it means for herself and her own life. And it's like life is just, going on about right outside. Like that stuff like that was just really powerful. And even if she didn't get, she didn't really change that much. She didn't have that much to do, but like there are always little moments like that. And I would also highlight that think that she was kind of one of, as we said, we'll get to Robbie, but I think she was one of the first to like more clearly articulate that like I'm seeing that there's something wrong here, and then kind of showing concern for him. I think she brings up that like I've had a lot of friends who are like get really close to that darkness, and if you ever need to talk to someone about it, and I feel like she's one of the first ones to kind of clock that with him, and that's that's really important to note.
Yeah.
And then let's move on to some of our other favorite doctors. Dr. Mel King. So she really kicked off this season. Oh my God, the poor thing. She's so nervous about this deposition, which we learn was, I believe, in the finale of the last season. Maybe there was a patient, a kid with measles, and they needed to do a spinal tap, and their parents were very like anti-vax and anti like measles vaccination, I guess.
Yep.
And so they didn't want to do any of that, and they end up I don't know, I guess giving consent and going through with it, but I assume that they sued after the fact or something. So she's like answering for that now in a deposition, and she's so nervous. I do feel like that took up a lot of her time, and we see a lot of her like being distracted when she's normally so attentive, going through that.
I love Boba.
She's so sweet with that guy who then like pushes her over or whatever. That was so, oh my God, sweet little baby Dr. Mel King. So she was kind of just dealing with that for a lot of the season. And then we get some scenes with her and her sister Becca, who we saw a little bit last season. She's a sister with Down syndrome, who she's like the primary caretaker for. And she comes into the ED with stomach issues that turn out to be a UTI, and there's really great interaction here between her and her sister and Langdon, because as we've seen before, she seems to really love Langdon. Like she really respects him. She sort of is like, he learned from her last season about dealing with a neurodivergent patient, and it seems like they have like a real like rapport, and so she finds out through that Becca is sexually active and she has a boyfriend that she didn't know about, and I feel like Mel is dealing a lot with the idea of like, I have poured my entire life into being Becca's caretaker and making sure she's okay and everything, and meanwhile like she's having more of a life than I am. So she has a lot going on, but I feel like it kind of came in spurts. I feel like we got like a lot of downtime without seeing her or checking in with her much, and then she would have like one or two bigger revelations. How did you feel about her this season?
Yeah, kind of similar to you. It was very interesting to see Mel put into a position where she was so stressed about this deposition that she had, and then all of a sudden, her sister comes in, and there might be a problem with her sister, and then she finds out that her sister has a boyfriend, and she's like, why aren't you telling me these things? Why don't you feel comfortable talking to me? And then she has that whole like monologue in the stairwell where she's like, oh, she's gonna go marry him, and I'm gonna be all by myself, and blah 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 blah. And it was really great to see that kind of side of Mel, because last season Mel didn't really get to have that. Like, we had those quiet, intimate moments from last season where, like you said, she has this really huge liking towards Landon and has so much respect for him. And it's good that he's going to be the character we talk about next. Spoiler alert, but yeah, I really liked Mel's arc throughout the season, and I mean, there's not much to add from what you said. I really liked everything that was given to her, and shout out Tara Dearden, Nepo baby, Bryan Cranston's daughter.
And Fiona Dourif, who plays McKay, too. We got two Nepo babies on here who are
Brad Dourif's daughter. Yep,
they're earning it. I think they're both.
I'm waiting
phenomenal.
for Bryan Cranston to make a cameo on the show.
Oh my God, that'd be great. And it's so great. You can like see his facial expressions in her
100%.
expressions sometimes. It's so funny.
And it's funny too because they just brought back Malcolm in the Middle,
right.
And I was watching that over the weekend and everything. It just like when I was watching that, I'm like, I could just see like his daughter's face and his expressions. It's crazy. It's so cool, and I just love the interviews where people ask him about the pen. He just like gets all emotional seeing the success for his daughter and everything. It makes me so happy. It's awesome. Yeah. Mel is a great character. I really like her a lot, and I really love that sequence that she has with Langdon where she's like, if you leave, then I don't have anybody here, because she feels at ease when she's with Langton, which is great for her. Like, that's a really beautiful piece of her arc, is that she feels she doesn't have any like hatred towards anyone in the ED, but she feels most comfortable when she's around Langton.
Yeah. I think you get the sense that she's maybe mildly neurodivergent as well, and probably, is maybe less comfortable in the social
Yeah.
situations. But when she's sort of in tune with someone, like she's really in tune with them, and you
Hmm.
can see that a lot.
Yeah. Dr. Langton. um
He has a lot going on.
a lot going on, to say the least. So obviously last season he was caught taking drugs from patients, and he was sent to rehab and everything. And we fast forward 10 months later. This is his first day back in the hospital and everything. And of course, it's very awkward for everybody, especially for him, because, a lot of people don't know if they should even trust him. And not everyone obviously knows what he did and everything, but some people are willing to open up and forgive him because he did his time and everything. But we have a few
Yeah.
people, like, obviously Robbie is unsure where he stands on her, and then of course Dr. Santos is really just like, I don't want him here. He should not be here. He's a fucking druggie. He shouldn't have been given any grievances to coming back here and everything.
And
But
she was the one who noticed his stealing drugs last season,
mhm,
and reported him. So
yes,
she's particularly, involved with it. And I was
yes.
a little unclear about that at first. I just assumed everyone knew the situation, but it seems like only Robbie and Santos, maybe Dana, know that he stole drugs from the hospital. I think everyone else just knows he had a drug addiction problem and went to rehab. So
Right.
I think that maybe explains a little bit more like other people's attitudes towards him versus
Yeah.
Santos.
Yeah, exactly. But Langton, he went through quite a journey this season. It took a while for him to be embraced by a lot of people, and he dealt with some of the most fascinating patients of the entire season. He dealt with patients that were going through serious conditions, and he also dealt with some of the funniest patients this season. One of the more uncomfortable, well, maybe I should emphasize this. Not necessarily uncomfortable, but it was like, I can't imagine being in that position. The eye glued shut. That
Oh
was
yeah.
rough. That was rough to watch. I didn't enjoy that, because there have been times where I would be terrified if my eye could not open. I would be petrified for my life if I couldn't see out of my eye. But Langton, he had a lot of quiet moments, and he had a lot of moments where he was really letting himself out and trying to get forgiveness from everybody. But I really thought his arc was very effective, and I think that Patrick Ball, a lot of people don't talk about that performance enough. I think a lot of people just particularly highlight Noah Wiley and Catherine Lanassa, as they should. I mean, those are probably the two strongest performances of this entire ensemble. But I think the work that Patrick Ball did here this season was really great. And yeah, Langton, I'm glad that he's on a journey to recovery, and you could tell that he's really trying. You could tell that he knows what he did was wrong. He admits to what he did was wrong, but he's trying to get himself back out there, because not only did this pretty much affect his career, it could have also affected his marriage and his relationship with his kids and everything. So I I I felt bad for him. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it took me a while to really like feel for him, but as the season was progressing and he was just trying to, you know, do his job and everything, I kind of felt sorry for the guy.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely. I guess when he first comes back, it's a little like, okay, like where is he at right now? Like, he's definitely been through the biggest ordeal since we last saw these characters. But yeah, I think it's made pretty clear after just the first couple of hours that he like has really done the work here. He seems the most changed from last year. Like, he was definitely way more of like a hot shot, very cocky, like jumping in on anything, and now like his confidence has really been shaken. He's way more humble and deferential to everyone. He's definitely like he's questioning his skills as a doctor, which, of course, just being away from it for 10 months, like naturally you sort of need to get back into that. But also just the, his reputational damage, his emotional damage, the everything about being dealing with drug addiction. But yeah, I think that you really get the sense that like he's working through it. He's doing the work, and I think that characters like Santos and Robbie, maybe, yes, they do know like more of the details about why he left, and maybe that is adds to some of the tension. But I think those are also two characters who are not willing to deal with the things that they're going through, and
Right.
I think that seeing someone who is recovering and working through their shit and going to therapy and taking the help that they need to someone who is not yet in that place, I think it's probably difficult for them to see him doing that, to see him being
Mm-hmm.
that way. So to me, I think that adds to a lot. It's never really like completely made text or anything, but I think that
Yeah.
subtext is kind of like lying underneath a lot of the people who are still like not ready to let him back in yet.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed.
Then we have, speaking of Santos, her roommate, Dr. Dennis Whitaker. I like didn't even know that his first name was Dennis. He's just Whitaker to me. But he didn't have. I don't know. I'm trying to think. Did he have like any major sort of arc? We find out that he is having a relationship with the wife of a patient who passed away in the last season. So there's maybe some sketchy ethical boundaries there. That and also just a concern of like, are you taking your work home with you? Like, do you feel like you have to fix this woman because you couldn't save her husband? That sort of thing that he talks about with Santos and with Robbie. And then he has the scene with Robbie where he is giving him the keys to his house to check up on that, and that's also sort of where we get some hints about Robbie's state of mind. Whitaker is dealing with Louis in the beginning. He's treating his case. And unfortunately, there's that really unfortunate scene where he is away from him for a little bit, and then, asks fucking Ogilvy, how he's doing, and he says like, oh, he's gone, he died or whatever, like really callously, and
Mm-hmm.
Whitaker has to deal with that, and so yeah, I'm trying to think that like we see his relationship with Santos. They're roommates now since last season, so they have kind of a I don't know, comfortable relationship. They're a bit, they have barbs back and forth. I don't feel like he had like major growth or anything, but I think that he seems much more assured as a doctor and as part of the ED to me.
Yeah, I would say that yeah, he didn't have a ton to work with this season, but his confidence really really
Mm-hmm.
grew cuz last season, oh my god, he was like a little baby who was just lost in everything. He changed his scrubs like 17,000
He kept
times
getting
throughout season
substances
1.
on them,
He
various
didn't he
substances.
he didn't have to do that this season, although he did lose his ID badge. And I
Mm-hmm.
liked where the badge ended
Where it
up. I
ended
thought
up.
that was a really funny little moment at the end of the season and everything. But yeah, I liked that he felt more confident as a doctor and everything because season 1 he was just like, I don't know if I'm even meant to be here. He was just very like terrified the entire time. He was very quiet and a bit of a shy guy and everything, but now he seems much more outgoing and more confident. And I like the scene where he kind of like snaps back at Langton to be like, "Don't talk down to me. Like I have balls now, and I could." Don't mess with me. I really liked that whole sequence, and I
That
liked the
I like
banter
that
between
sentiment,
him
but
and
I thought that,
Santos.
yeah, I thought that scene was a little odd with him and Langdon. I didn't feel like they had interactions like that throughout the season, and I was a little like, whoa, like sure, like it's good that he's asserting himself, but yeah, I don't know, that seemed like a little out of nowhere to me, but
I mean it was a little out of nowhere, but it was like, yeah, go off, Whitaker, go off.
yeah, and I think it seems to me from like season one Robbie, I feel like Whitaker kind of took the most from him, or sort of like you see him like emulating him now in like the conversation he has with Ogilvy about why he loves working in emergency medicine. Like I feel like he's taken on the mantle a little bit of like,
Hmm.
I'm the one who can take a beat and like talk someone through something difficult,
Yeah,
or appreciate the gravity of a moment or something like that. Like he's proven himself to be very good at that, and like kind of a pillar of the ED, as someone like Robbie is
right.
struggling.
Yeah, but Whitaker definitely didn't have. It was kind of like an in between thing where like he had stuff to work with, but he ultimately didn't at the same time. Like I'd be interested to see where his arc goes next season and everything if he's coming back and everything. I
Yeah,
mean,
and
you never know who's coming back and
that's
who's
true.
not coming
Yeah,
back.
And by the way, I think it's smart that like we can't have every single one of these people having the worst day of their life or the most momentous
Yes.
day of their life. Like
Oh,
for some of
100%.
these people, it has to be just a day. Like so,
Yes.
it's very smart to have them, have these moments. We see things that were hinted at in first season or what could be
Mhm.
going forward, but like they're having one day in their life.
Yeah. Now we go on to Trinity Santos, the love of my life. I adore her very much. I love Santos very much, and I really loved her arc in season 2. The various patients that she dealt with, the stuff that we were hearing about outside of the hospital and her relationship with that one surgeon. I would have liked more of that. I really wanted more of that. And I didn't pick up on that when I was watching the episode. I didn't even know that those two were having a relationship until like 5 weeks later. I saw someone on Twitter and I'm like, when did they mention that they're in some sort of relationship? I must have missed that. Then I watched the scene and I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely missed that. There's so much happening. It's very easy to miss things because there's a bajillion characters and they're talking very quickly and the various things are happening and you're trying to keep up to date with everything. So it's very easy to miss that. But with Santos, first of all, again, we brought up earlier that she is constantly being like she's essentially like being watched and everything of how she's performing and how she's keeping up to date with her charts and her patients and
Al Hashimi
everything.
warns her to keep up to date on her charting because apparently she's very behind.
Very behind on her charting, but there's a lot of interesting patient interactions that she has throughout the season. I mean, literally the season begins with her and that little girl, and I thought that was a really interesting patient dynamic that we were given this season. And that was, super early on into the season and everything. And, it's moments like that to where you see there is a lot of empathy in Santos because, yes, she is so sarcastic and she is very much someone that you could argue is not a very nice person, but she does have a heart deep down. And I also really love the sequence where she was with Baby Jane Doe and where she was singing that song and everything, that little lullaby. And she was like, why are you constantly crying? And she was all like having the hissy fit and everything. But then it made for a really compelling sequence. And then, of course, the stuff with Langdon, which we just brought up moments ago and everything. And their whole sequence where they're talking and she grills him, very effective sequence. And again, like we see that Santos does take her job seriously and everything, and we see that even though she can't be very blunt and straight to the point, she does care. And I really like that we see that she is such a multi-layered character. Because admittedly, season 1, I didn't vibe with her at first. I'm like, okay, we get it. You're very cocky and arrogant. But then you see there is an empathetic side to her. And I really like that that's further utilized here in season 2. And yeah, Santos is great. How could you hate Santos?
Here's my hot take. I don't love Santos.
Why
And
not?
I
Why
I
not?
in a movie or a TV show, when a character's not working for me, 9 times out of 10, I'm like, it's the writing. Like the writing is an issue. The actor is doing their best, but like it's not working for me. Whatever. I kind of feel like here I like how Santos is written. I like that her first season arc is that she is super ambitious. She's super pushy. She wants to be involved in all these high risk operations and everything. And she's I like that she wants to banter with everyone and that she's so prickly. I something about Issa Briona's performance does not quite click for me. I just feel like
No.
she and I don't really know her from anything else. I've seen videos of her on Broadway, and so she's incredible. I know this is theater kid on theater kid crime right
I
now.
may be biased because I went to see her in the play and I met her after and she
Oh,
complimented my
nice.
tattoos and that's it.
That's totally fair. And I'm sure like I can see that like she is a great performer. I just don't know if she vibes with like this sort of setting and everything. There's something about and this partially is the writing too, that like particularly in the first season, like the nicknames, the trying to crack a joke a lot in a way that is just doesn't quite feel organic, and she just comes off sometimes like a sitcom character in the middle of a more grounded, sort of, and I don't know, I just kind of feel like
I feel like there's
again,
always that one character though in a
yeah,
drama. I get what you're saying though. She definitely does give that
'cause
impression
there
and
is a lot of depth there. There's a lot going
yeah,
on with her. I
right.
just feel like we get the same like two faces from her all the time. She's always like rolling her eyes, or she's just doing the little meep thing. I like, and there are other like Catherine Lanez as Dana. She is broad too. Like she gets loud, she gets sarcastic, she does all that stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
it's sort of counterbalanced with a lot more quiet and fear and the other things going on in her brain. Like you can see it play across her face. I just don't feel like you get anything else across Santos's face to me.
Well, that's a very interesting hot take. I don't have
You
any
gotta have
more to
some.
add with that. Who's next? We have a few more characters. We're gonna go through these other characters
Yeah.
because there's a lot still to talk about.
We didn't even get to Robbie yet, and we keep being like, wait till we get to Robbie. So then we have Javati, Dr. Victoria Javati. She has both of her parents work at the hospital. I believe we knew her mom worked there last season, but I think it
Yeah.
was new information that her dad also works
Yeah, I
there.
was like, oh my god,
Yeah.
this is literally a nepo environment.
It is, but also like the poor girl, like the amount of
I
pressure
know.
that
And
she
also, it was
feels.
her birthday too. It was her
Her
birthday.
birthday's coming up. They're
Yeah.
secretly planning her 21st birthday party. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and so she's like super smart. I think she's like kind of a bit of a prodigy for like being there so young and everything. And I love her. I think that she had a great showing last year as like a newbie, and now she's she had an interesting arc where she sort of. We didn't even mention that the computer system is down for like most of this season with the cybersecurity issue,
Yep.
and so they're moving to analog charting and tracking and everything. And there was some issue through that she missed something with a patient, and they had a really serious incident. Again, medical terms. I'm not a doctor,
Yeah.
but that moment for me, that was like the standout for her because she's generally pretty confident. She's open to anyone else's suggestions and everything, but like this was something where clearly she screwed up and it really almost cost someone their life. And there was a moment when they're reviving that person or doing whatever they have to do, and like the chart goes the right way or whatever, again, medical jargon, but you see in her eyes like the relief and the like she just turns around like completely shaken by the whole experience. And I think that was like the highlight for her this season for me, because she was just like so captivating in that moment.
We also learned that she's an influencer.
Oh right, yes, Dr. J.
The most random thing ever.
I think it makes sense. I think that
you're like,
exists
you
a
don't
lot
know
today.
Dr. J? That was
Yeah, which
very
is
random.
like it's sort of it's played for laughs first with like the patient asking for it and everything, but then it does make sense like when she took a video of ICE arresting Jesse, and like
Right.
she's gonna post that and try to get some traction out of it, or
Yeah.
see if anyone knows where he's held. And
Right.
and as McKay talks to Robbie and says like some of the stuff she posts is like really cool. It's like about self-care and taking care of your own health and
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
things like that. So yeah, I think that makes sense for like a young character to sort of like turn to social media as an outlet for
Yeah.
her medical advice.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't get a ton delve into that particular element, but I thought it was an interesting little aspect of Javati's character and everything. And I agree. I mean, honestly, season one, again, this was another character where I liked her arc in season one, but I was like, it's going to really take me a while to be warmed up by this character. All those hesitations were thrown out like immediately when the season began. She was absolutely high up for me in terms of my favorite characters this entire season. And yeah, that moment that you brought up, that was one of the more impactful moments of the entire season. And again, like every time her mother comes on screen and I'm like, can you just please fuck off? Like if that was my mother, I would be so livid. This is why you never work alongside your family. This is exactly why you never do that. And if anyone out there listening to this pod works alongside your family, I hope your dynamic is nowhere near this, because it would be brutal to even come across that. But no, Javati's great. I'm a big fan of her.
And that creates some moments where you see how much Dr. Robbie believes in her, because like when
Yes.
he mentions to her mom like watch her doctor. I don't remember exactly what he says, but he sort of makes her step up to do something and wants her to prove herself and assert herself to her mom a little bit, and realize that she does belong in emergency medicine.
Yeah, her mom is like, oh, you belong in a different field and everything. And Javati is simply like, no, I like it down here and I like what I'm doing now. So please
Well, I
get
think
off
she's
my
not
ass.
sure yet, but it's like, let me discover this for myself. Like, stop trying
Exactly.
to push me into what you do.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And speaking of characters who don't entirely know where they're going to go,
Aw.
Samira
On the show
Mohan
or off.
on the show. Oh man. Okay. This is where I might fanboy out a little bit.
Fair enough.
I adore Supriya Ganesh. I love her so much, and I love Dr. Mohan. One, I have a humongous crush on her. That's unavoidable.
She's
But
so beautiful.
but also I think she has a really fascinating arc. Season 1, she didn't have a well, okay, granted, I only saw season 1 once, and it's been over a year since I've seen it last, so I don't remember everything that happened with her character in season 1. But I remember the whole thing where she was like asserting confidence, but then she had that moment where she broke down and everything because she was trying to hold in all the positivity and like showcase all that. But yet she actually had a lot more emotion. And this season, throughout the entire season, her biggest arc is that she doesn't know what fellowship she wants to go through, but then she's also having this battle with her mother to the point where halfway through the season, she literally has a severe panic attack. And, she's like, I'm just so stressed with all these issues that are happening with my mom. And, she sold the house and now she's on this cruise and everything. She also mentioned New Jersey, which bonus points for that she brought up New Jersey. Always love a New Jersey shout out. And, Robbie grills her. He's like, you're telling me that you literally had a panic attack because of mommy issues? You need to get out of here now. And basically, for the rest of the season, Mohan is under the impression that like, oh, maybe I'm doing something wrong, and maybe I'm not meant to keep going with this. And also on top of that too, she has this patient early on in the season who gets into like this accident on a construction site, right? Is that where he came from or something like
He is
that?
a construction. I don't remember if he had the accident first, or if he just came in for like medical treatment and stuff. It's later on that he comes back in after having the accident.
Yes, yes. So she has that whole thing where she's talking with this family who doesn't really
Mhm.
have enough health insurance to cover their medical bills and everything. And
I think he has diabetes or some chronic issue
yes,
like that.
yes. And she tries to find ways of offering them the need that they can get and everything because obviously medical bills are so incredibly costly and everything. And she basically persuades that patient to stay and everything. His name was Orlando, and she tries to get him to stay, but he basically just leaves, and then he comes back, and then things go crazy and everything. And uh, so right before this season came to an end, we learned that Supriya Ganesh will not be back for season 3, which really bummed me out. First of all, I wish that we weren't told that ahead of time. I think that I would have liked
Mm.
it better if we were told that afterwards. At the same time, though, it was kind of relieving to know, like, oh, I guess this really is the end of Dr. Mohan. I'm really bummed that she's leaving personally, but that's just me and everything. But in terms of her arc, I thought she did a wonderful job. I thought her arc was really really great, especially with the whole dynamic of her feeling unsure of where she was going to go next in the medical field and everything, this fellowship that she's trying to do. So I really liked her arc personally. And again, I am devastated that Supriya is leaving the show. I'm very sad.
Yeah. I'm definitely gonna miss her going forward. She's like such a welcome presence here. And yeah, I think like for her season 1 arc, it was mostly that she started off being criticized for being slow with patients, for taking too much
That's
time,
right.
and
Yes, yes.
she was Robbie called her slow mo and stuff, and it. I think by the end of that, by with the Pitt Fest shooting, and dealing with the extremely high intensity emergency like that, I think she sort of proved that she can do it. But it's interesting to sort of see like a come down from that, and see that maybe she is struggling, maybe this is not where she belongs. And yeah, you see the issues with her mother and leading to the panic attack, and the fact that Robbie goes off on her, and we've seen Robbie be tough before and everything, but this is like in a really harsh, unprofessional really way. And the fact that he attacks her for having mommy issues, which we later learn in the season he has mommy issues, like
Hmm.
again, I think it's a more of a like, I'm seeing myself reflected in you and I don't like it. And so I think it was really rife with tension and everything, to see how like they were going to recover from that. I like that they have a little bit of a repair. It feels like with both of them, they fractured a lot and like repaired back a little bit, but not quite all the way. Even in their last interaction that we just saw in the finale, I think that Robbie's kind of trying to wrap up with everyone, and like Mohan, it's she's there. She sort of tacitly accepts his apology for being rude throughout the day, but I don't think she's fully like good with him. I don't think they're fully like ready to let him back in or anything like that. And so yeah, I guess we're gonna learn that she went somewhere else. But the case with Orlando and his family was really devastating. I mean, she tried so many options, and it just comes down to, and again, this is something that the Pitt does a lot, but in this case, it was very well threaded throughout the storyline. The fact that this family's insurance was, they all work, the mother and father both work, but they're can't get insurance covered from this job because it's not full time, or all these different traps that people get set in, that they make too much money to qualify for lesser insurance, but they just what a nightmare that the system we live in has produced. And she navigates all that. She tries like the best that she can. She tries so hard to get him not to leave. He does leave. He goes back to work, and he ends up having an accident, more than likely, although Robbie thinks otherwise maybe. But just dealing with that, and the fact that his wife comes back in expecting him to have never left. She just wants to bring him dinner, and they're like, oh no, he left, he had an accident, he came back. Just the way that she kind of like shuts down once all that happens, and you can just see that her heart's not in it. She's feeling too close to this case, and she's just been really, really beaten down by the day. And yeah, I would have liked maybe a little bit more closure from her. We have the Dr. Robbie conversation, but I guess we'll see if we check in with her anymore throughout other seasons. But yeah, I think that she's like such a like lovely, caring person, and she just really went through it this day. And
She really
like we
did.
said, not every day can be the worst day of someone's life, but this was
Hmm.
probably pretty high for Dr. Mohan.
Yeah. And you know who else had a pretty bad day, clearly?
Very
Dr.
bad day.
Robbie.
Yep. As we've been alluding to, yeah, was not the best for him.
Where do we even start with Dr.
Oh my
Robbie?
god.
Like, really, where do we begin? I
Riding
mean,
into the pit on his motorcycle without a helmet. The very first shot of this show this season.
I knew as soon as he came in with no helmet, I knew it was just not going to end well for him. Yeah, like truly, where do we even begin? I mean, there's so much to really break down
It's a
with
lot.
him throughout the season. I mean, like he's literally the main character of this show. We follow along his journey. Last season, he was still in the midst of recovering after losing his mentor to COVID and
Mhm.
everything. And this season, when the season begins, he definitely feels a little more at ease. That's tossed out the window pretty quickly on, and it just escalates into further depression as it goes on. And we see how he's truly broken, how he's devastated, and not only is he second guessing his purpose working at the hospital, he's second guessing his purpose in this entire life. And I didn't expect that arc in this season because towards the end of season one, we got that really beautiful sequence, which I think ultimately got Noah Wiley the Emmy to where, after that whole thing happened with the shooting and everything, he went into that room and he just broke down in tears. And considering the fact that the whole season leading up to that point, he kind of held it together and everything, and then he finally let it out like what was it, like 12 hours into the shift at that
Mhm.
point. And this season, I mean, throughout the entirety of it, we see him breaking, we see him really angry, we see him
He's just
not
a
happy at
raw
all.
nerve the whole time, yeah.
Like he's on edge literally the moment he walks into the hospital until the moment that the last scene of the episode and everything, where things do kind of cool down a little bit in his last moments of the episode slash
It's a little bit
the
of release in
season.
that same room where he broke down last season.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that his arc was really powerful, quite frankly. And, yes, a lot of people turned on Robbie this season. A lot of people were like, oh my God, he's such a despicable human being. We all have our days where we're not nice to people and we're very mean to people. And yes, he certainly went a little far with how he was treating his colleagues and everything. But I think that when you watch the season in full and you see how it plays out, you could see that he is so broken and he feels hopeless. And, you know, he isn't afraid to admit that he's wrong for how he was acted and everything. But he also, again, as we said early on in this discussion, we want to make sure he wants to make sure that everything is going to be in good hands when he's on his sabbatical and everything. So, yeah, I mean, there's so much to break down, and obviously, if we break down everything, we'll be here for 5 more hours.
Yeah.
But just to kind of like, you know, put it all together, Robbie had an incredible arc this season, a very heartbreaking arc this season, and yeah, when we talk about moments that stuck out to us the most, like moments that made us cry and moments that made us feel very emotional, like I have a lot to say about a particular sequence of the season involving Robbie, but overall, I mean, he had a wonderful arc. It was a really, really, really beautifully handled arc.
I think it's most like stark to contrast him in season one versus him in season two, because season one was just so. And I like I said, I didn't watch ER. I'm sure I had seen Noah Wiley in a handful of like little movie parts or things like that, but I really didn't have any relationship to him. And I was like blown away by him in the first season because Robbie is just so. It actually, speaking of Dr. Mel King's famous father in real life, Bryan Cranston, it actually reminded me the most of Bryan Cranston's performance in Breaking Bad. And they're very different shows, but in the sense that both of those characters, the actors' performances as those characters, they could so strongly balance the like disappearing into the character and the like doing very actorly, very like movie star shit. Like the fact that, you know, Walter White could walk into a room and like I know that he's Walter White, or Robbie could walk into a room and I could tell, like, just inhabiting that character so much. Robbie just had this sense of like completely at ease in his, you know, domain of the ED. He's the, you know, he's like, if this was a sports team, he's the coach. Like he's just the one who is like able to motivate. He's able to like identify what people need, both staff and patients, and he's so like compassionate and knowing and everything like that. And we see cracks in that, certainly. Like we see him deal with tough moments, and we see what he's already coming into the day with the anniversary of his mentor's death. But like there's just, you can just see so much under the surface, that his well runs so deep for other people and how to handle them, how to best comfort them in these horrible hours of need. And you just see how that is gone from him this season. He just comes in so drained of empathy and it makes so much more sense as the season goes on. I think his mental health issues were weaved into the narrative really smartly. Like I think that at first you're just like, he's being kind of a bitch today. Like he's just kind of rude. He's kind of like snapping at people, and it's just like, okay, this is his Dr. Robbie's acting a little different. And then it sort of becomes like, oh, is he hinting at like suicidal thoughts? Is it kind of becomes like a specter? But then by the end, there are several characters saying to him like, you are scaring me with the way that you're talking about your trip and your life, and like it's just so like completely the text at that point, and he is able to acknowledge it sometimes, and you can just see that any of the times that he's lashing out, when he's not, he doesn't have that extra capacity for people, like he's in crisis. He's totally in crisis, and we're just trying to like it's a tough place to find a character who was so lovable and competent and compassionate in the first season, and see him like devolved this far, where it's very true that yes, he's in crisis, but he also is causing real harm to people. Like he is really, you know, he's taking extra chances with his cases, and he's berating people he wouldn't normally berate, and so I think it walked that very delicate balance of like, people go through these things and it is so hard for them, and we can see how deep a well he's in, but also there are very real effects that can have on your loved ones, your coworkers, like whoever. So I think that it was a really brave arc. Like he could have just been lovable Dr. Robbie for the next 10 seasons that they're going to make of this show, but to have him go through something so intense here in the second season, when we're still kind of just getting to know him, we've only met this man on 2 days of his life, and this is one of them. I think that it was a really brave choice and like really well executed by Noah Wiley.
You have to ride a fine line when tackling the things that are tackled within his arc and everything, because, you know, I always get cautious of when mental health is depicted in film and television, books, whatever. Like because we have seen so many projects where it's handled in such a tasteless fashion. I think of shows like 13 Reasons Why that handled that subject matter very poorly and not in a very delicate way. And there wasn't grace given to that handling of that material. And here, I think it's so effective and so smart with how it's handled and everything. And to the point where, you know, as we are seeing essentially his downfall throughout the entirety of the season, it really hit way too close to home. And to the point where I was just so impressed with the writing of how they were able to bring elements of this and make it feel like these writers or maybe Noah Wiley took elements of that and incorporated it into his performance. I can't say. I know that he wrote
Yeah, we
some of
should
the
say he wrote
episodes.
and directed some episodes. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And I'd be interested to see how that was all incorporated into the writing process and everything. But I think that it was really smart with how it was all handled. Like you said, it was a really brave arc because, like you said, he could have just been the very lovable doctor the entire time. But, he had his brokenness in season one, but this was to a new level. Like he
Hmm.
was like broken with a capital B. And it was really hard to watch. It was very difficult to watch because you like Robbie. You love Noah Wiley as his character. And to see him at his lowest point, it's really hard to stomach in. And that's a credit to Wiley's performance and the way that the character is written. And yeah, it was a really terrifically handled arc. And it's honestly one of the best depictions of this material that I've seen in a character in a very long time,
Yeah.
to where I forget that I'm watching, fiction. Like I thought I felt like I was a bit of a fly on the wall, and that's how I feel with the show in general. Like I feel like I'm eavesdropping when I'm not supposed to be there. But particularly with Robbie this season, I felt like I was intrusive of his space and that I wasn't supposed to be there. But I also felt
Absolutely.
welcomed in
Yeah. That.
because you just care so much about these characters and you care about him and you see that these other doctors care about him. Like we brought up before that Dana has this motherly feeling to him and she wants to make sure that he's okay and the sequences where they're bickering with one another and she's just terrified that he's not going to come back, not only come back to work but just come back in this life. Like that's a terrifying feeling for anybody to deal with, and I really thought it was just so impressively done. I was really, really taken aback by how they handled it, and they handled it with a lot of grace and care, and I was really impressed with that.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, like we as viewers, we like Dr. Robbie, especially after season one, and it's the show is very smart to you kind of just come in and you just assume that all of his opinions are going to be our opinions, and like the show is going to sort of be on his side in a way, and it just sort of slowly like devolves that. It slowly makes you realize like, oh no, he's not at his best today. Like he is not in a good frame of mind. He is having these other issues, and then it just sort of he creates his own sort of care. And like you said, like that's what I'm saying. Like Noah Wiley is just he is Dr. Robbie to me. Like I didn't really have a relationship with him beforehand, but like he just so perfectly embodies this character to the point where he's never like predictable or anything, but like he does or says something, and you're like, oh yeah, that's Dr. Robbie. And the fact that they were willing to subvert that so much was just a really strong choice that they pulled off.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, do we want to move on to just we covered a lot of it, but like major themes or takeaways that you want to cover that we saw
Well,
throughout the storylines?
yeah, I mean, like I said, the one of the big takeaways for me was how this season tackled mental health.
Yeah.
Like I think that it's one of the strongest depictions of mental health that I've seen in recent memory in a film or a TV show. And, like again, it's very difficult to bring that to life and depict it in a very realistic way because you have to remember that you're watching a TV show. These aren't real people. These are fictional characters. These are just actors that are paid to do this job. They act and then they go home and they move on with their lives. But to me, one of the big takeaways with this season was how it handled this topic of mental health. And I know that that's not the main thing that was dealt with in this season and everything. You obviously have a whole bunch of things going on. But to me, my big takeaway was that, season one, we had sequences where it dealt with that and everything. But this season really, like, put it towards the forefront of what it was trying to convey, and I was very impressed. There's not a ton to add because I feel like I said my whole piece about it when talking about Robbie's arc and everything, but
And I like that you get a range of
yeah.
mental health approaches and conditions, like the fact that you have Langdon, who is fully in recovery for addiction. You
Mhm.
have Robbie, who is this open wound, like we said. Santos has obviously dealt with self-harm before in the past
Yeah.
and is maybe like brewing again, but that she's probably also not in a place to deal with that right now.
Right.
Dana had the trauma last season that maybe she dealt with in her own way, but not in a like maybe she just sort of pushed through that and that has worked for her. Like we get all these things, like there are just no easy answers here,
Yeah,
and like you get to
and
see
some
like a
people are
wide range.
easily able to push through those things, but then other people they can't. They have a hard time
And some
trying
will
to
ask for
fight
help
through
and
it.
some won't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's been a huge. That's probably like the biggest thing that you could take away. I think just to touch on, like I said, there are some really turn to the camera moments where we're gonna like talk about the issues with our healthcare system, but I think it's fully worth underlining the issues with our healthcare system and the fact that they do create these characters who are so known to us, who are so like we love them so much, and then to see them like up against these forces and it that like really brings it home a lot.
Yeah.
The fact that they had the ICE storyline I think was super important. There was some news coming out that like maybe HBO had asked them to like sort of both sides it a little bit or measure it in some way. If what we saw was a compromise, I mean, I think it was still pretty fucking clear that ICE is the absolute worst. And
Yeah.
the second that those agents enter into the ED, everyone is on edge. It is just so clear that they are an unwanted presence who are, and like I said, just the juxtaposition there of like we see what these healthcare workers do day in and day out, the hell that they go through to save lives, and then you have these people coming in and ruining lives and for no fucking reason, and it's just like it couldn't be starker, like the value that is added to society
Yeah.
with these healthcare workers and these fucking ICE agents. So
Right.
I think that was pretty clear to me. Like I don't think that the show equivocated too much on that, and the fact
Yeah.
that they had him arrest Jesse and like we're gonna deal with the consequences of that at some point. I guess I think that was a very it was a pretty well handled storyline that was important
Agreed.
to see.
Yeah, agreed. And when you brought up the cyber attack, I'm like, oh yeah, that did happen this season.
It was kind of interesting. We were like, oh, that's like the big thing this season, and then it was a hassle. It affected some cases and everything, but yeah, it wasn't like this giant bomb on the season or anything.
Yeah, I was waiting for like, I thought that was going to be like something that lasted until the end of the season, but I'm glad that that wasn't the case because like it started off pretty early into the season, and I'm like, oh, if we have to go through 10 episodes of this, that's going to be like not good at all. It's going to get repetitive.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess just the reliance on technology and everything, but the fact that it was interesting the way that the more veteran members of the staff like knew how to do that whole analog system, and it was like totally alien to anyone younger. So just I mean, I don't think any of them would have wanted to work without the system up though. So
Yeah.
clearly, I think they were all relieved to have it back by the end.
Yeah, and then didn't someone make a jab at Robbie being like, "Oh, they didn't have cell phones in your time?" And he's like, "We did have cell phones, just not smartphones or something."
That was Giamatti with when he was sort of chastising her for her TikTok videos and stuff,
Yeah.
and she's like, it's kind of a serious moment. She's like, you didn't have cell phones, you didn't have social media, you didn't have ICE abducting people off the streets, and he's like, well, we had cell phones at least a little bit in the beginning.
Yeah. So what else is there to touch on?
We can just give out some superlatives for the season, just some quick fire ones.
All right.
Who do you think was your favorite doctor? Let me phrase it this way: like, who, if you were going to the pit, who do you want to be your doctor?
Mohan.
Yeah, that's great. She'll spend a lot of time with you. She's slow.
I mean, if I'm being realistic, I would probably. Well, actually, realistically, I would probably choose her too because she's a pretty good doctor.
Yeah.
Who would you
great.
choose?
I'm like, there's something about McKay that she seems like soothing and calming and stuff. I feel like if I was like having an issue, she would
Right.
be like enough to relax. There are definitely, I don't. Whitaker seems like he would seem like he's a little too nervy or something. Santos, her bedside manner is a mess. Definitely would not want that. And I probably would have said Robbie last season, but not this season. Certainly
No,
not.
not this season for sure. Favorite patient storyline?
Patient storyline. Let's see. I would definitely. We already talked about Louis. That was really heartbreaking. Oh my
Yeah,
god, it
that
was
was
so
really
clear what was
gutting.
coming, but it was tough.
Yeah, and the whole reveal of how he had a wife and then she passed away and he took on drinking since then. It was really, really devastating. One of the more quiet moments of the season. And I really love whenever the season gets quiet. Would the
Hmm.
show would get quiet. Like, they don't, because I've noticed in the show, you don't really hear music at all in the
No,
episodes
I don't think there's
until
any score. No.
yeah, and I think that makes it so much more effective. Like some people are like, "Oh, music heightens the emotion and everything," but sometimes the more effective moments are the ones without music, and that's not just with this show. I mean, in general, whenever you watch a movie or a show.
Hmm.
But yeah, that was my favorite patient storyline because
Yeah.
Louis was one of the highlights for me of season one. You really liked him, even though you're like, dude, take care of yourself and stop drinking. But then because you spend all this time with him, you really start to take a liking for him. You like his charm and his charisma, and then for him to not make it was really, really gutting.
And you get the sense there that like obviously later on after he passes away we find out a bit of his backstory, but like you get the sense that he's had a hard life and maybe drinking is his way of coping, and maybe
Yeah,
like some people are at that point where they're like, this might kill me, but it's kind of what I have to do to get through the
right,
day, and that's just a really important thing to say. The way that Ogilvy like totally doesn't understand that, and like I feel like is slowly sort of brought up to speed of like we have to have compassion for people no matter what
right.
state they're in. Like that was super important to see, and
Y-
with someone who we already knew.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that yeah, there was Digby, the homeless man, who was there for like most of
Mm-hmm.
the season. That the moment when they shave him and give him a haircut, and he looks at himself in the mirror, that was a really like heartbreaking, not heartbreaking. It was touching. It was
Yeah, he was
interesting to
like, my
see.
daughter's not going to recognize me, or
Hmm.
my family's not going to recognize me, and everything. Yeah, that was a very poignant moment too.
Yeah. I'll just shout out. There was I believe Yana was her name, the one who had PTSD from the Tree of Life shooting that Robbie talked to. And I think that I sort of remember that, and it became a little bit more important like later in the season, because I'm remembering now that was like a glimpse of Robbie like actually being compassionate with someone and like sharing a very emotional moment, and like we didn't see that a lot this season. Like
Yeah,
you see that early in the season, you're like, oh yeah, that's good old Dr. Robbie, but like that was few and far between. Like the further we got on, so that was important
right.
to see. Yeah. Any others for you?
Nah, I can't think of any on top of my head. I liked the girl that was covered in red paint and how she would just randomly walk around and everything.
Oh, the one who
Just
was sunburned.
yeah,
Yeah.
sunburn. That's right.
in her American flag
Oh, and
bikini.
then
Yeah, she just show up in
the
a
one
random shot.
random like costume person too. I like the shot where Santos is walking by, and
The
then the big
furry.
costume. Yeah, the furry. Yep, the
I
furry.
had seen people speculating that like there's a big furry convention in Pittsburgh on 4th of July. Like that should be a storyline at some point, and they
Jeez,
got it in there.
that's funny that they got that in there. MVP of the season.
MVP. I'm like, I don't even like. If we're going doctor again, like for me it's kind of Javati. I kind of really like that she's able to like work through some of the stuff with her parents. She's able to like by the end she's asserting herself and kind of saying to Robbie that maybe emergency psychiatry I think is what she's considering. I like that she that she had that really big like flub in the middle of the season, but we saw her recover. We saw Robbie
Hmm.
have her do that super like precarious procedure at some point. I just feel like she like as a doctor is like really like progressing better than anyone.
Yeah. For me, MVP would be Dana. A lot of my favorite
Yeah,
moments in the season involved Dana. And Dana, I think, ultimately was my MVP of season one, and she was my MVP of this season. So
pretty fucking great. Yeah.
she strikes gold twice. So good job, Catherine Lanassa.
All right. Was there a moment that made you laugh and a moment that made you cry?
Okay, moment that made me laugh. To be honest with you, I can't think of a ton of moments that made me laugh. I did really love the moment where, you hear that patient screaming and then Donnie is just doing his thing. That was a really funny moment. Robbie walking by when Abbott has his shirt off.
It's
That's an
probably the best,
all-timer.
honestly.
In terms of other moments that made me laugh, Maybe if you toss some moments my way, maybe I'll be like, oh yeah, that made me laugh.
I definitely wrote down the cell phone line. That was really funny.
Cell
That
phone
like
line, yeah.
kind of lingering. There was something when there was a lot of comedy mind when the analog system was first introduced with like the fax machine and everything.
Hmm.
And there was something, I don't remember what the line before it was or anything, but Perla her delivery of something like "We live in hell" was so like when they're trying to deal with the fax machine and whatever is going wrong, the paper jammed or something. And yeah, she really dryly was just like, "Yeah, we live in hell."
Yeah,
All that
totally.
stuff. And then for Cry, I think another patient that I hadn't mentioned was Howard, the man who was obese and came in for and
Oh
needed to
my
get a
god.
surgery procedure.
Oh,
That really got to me, and it was the fact that we saw Ogilvy being such an asshole about it, being
mm-hmm.
really demeaning towards him, and just sort of implying that he got himself into this mess by letting his weight get out of control. Like that was one thing, and it was sort of like I don't know. That's expected for some people to have that attitude, but the way that Howard just kept apologizing to the doctors and to the staff and like saying like, yeah, I know that you're gonna have to get a special scale to weigh me and things like that, and just that was so heartbreaking the way that he just kept like apologizing for
And
existing
then the
and
phone call to his
yeah,
sister. Oh my god. Yeah, that was a really devastating
yeah,
element to the season. For me, the moment that really broke me the most was in the second to last episode of the season where Robbie admits to his friend that he doesn't want to be anywhere anymore. That
yeah.
really genuinely hurt me so much because that moment hit way too close to home for me and that to me was the moment where I further realized that mental health was an important theme this season. And, again, you just credit Noah Wiley for his acting and everything. Like, during that sequence, like, yeah, he's saying so much, but then he's also doing so much with his face through his eyes. And his friend is genuinely concerned for him. And Robbie's like, the hospital is like, I feel at ease there, but when I'm out here, I don't feel
Mhm.
anything. And I feel like I'm not meant to be anywhere but this hospital. But even there, I feel like I'm not supposed to be there anymore and be in this life. And it was so devastating. It like genuinely, when I was watching the episode, I had to pause that scene for like 10 minutes because it just hit way too close to home. And it was so painfully raw. And there were many moments throughout the season that got me emotional, but that was the moment for me that like genuinely broke me.
Yeah, and we've talked about Robbie's interactions with pretty much every other character, but yeah, we didn't mention his friend Duke who comes in, and I feel like that was really important because he's so interesting, like has such an interesting dynamic with him, and is able to kind of pry this information out of him, and he definitely is he's definitely getting the sense that Robbie is not in a good place, but he doesn't want to needle him too hard but eventually Robbie does get to that point where he does just fully admit it that he's having the suicidal ideation
Hmm.
and the way that Duke handles that like I'm here for whatever you need. I also know that like you're an adult and like there's like what can I do at this point? Like there was a sense of agency that he gave him too. He didn't like call for a wellness check on him or anything or like it was a really interesting dynamic to see play out that he felt vulnerable enough with him to let him in on like really how dark it was getting.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So we're gonna see some casting changes in season three. We obviously brought that Supriya Ganesh will not be back for season three, which every time I'm saying that out loud, it makes me sad that we're not
I
gonna
hope she
see
is
her.
booked and busy. I hope she's on like a million other
I
projects.
hope so too. I really hope so too. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where season three goes in terms of the cast. And now, obviously, we don't know if there's going to be anyone else that doesn't come back for season three. Like
Hmm.
something could come out literally tomorrow and be like, so and so is now returned for season three, and then we're probably going to be introduced to new characters again. And I think for me, in terms of season three, the thing that I'm most curious about, how far ahead are we going to jump? Like, are
Hmm.
we going to jump ahead 10 months again? Are we going to jump ahead even further? Or is it going to be a bit of a short time jump to where Robbie does go on his sabbatical and then it starts the moment he comes back. But I don't know. I don't know. Like, what do you think they're
Do you
gonna
think
do
he's
for
still
season
going on
3?
sabbatical? I don't know. I think it's a
That
little
that's
ambiguous.
the thing. We didn't even talk about the last scene. We didn't even talk about the last scene with him and little baby
Yeah.
Jane Doe.
Oh my God, him saying, he said, you have so many wonderful things to see and people to love ahead of you.
Hmm.
Like, oh my God, just such a, and puts a bit of a bow on his arc to some degree, but like, it's just that little glimmer of hope for him having been in such a dark place for the whole season.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and yeah, so I don't know for next season. We it has been announced that Dr. Ellis, who's one of the night shift doctors, is getting like bumped up to a season regular. So I don't know if that's gonna shift things around at all. But
Hmm.
yeah, I guess we don't have any guarantees that everyone else is gonna be back. But hopefully we don't lose any more of our favorites
I hope not either. But then again, it would make sense because
because people cycle in and out. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And then lastly, before we give our legit final thoughts on the season, Emmy predictions. I think this is going to do well again
All
at the Emmys. I think it's going to
take them
clean
all.
up very nicely. I could now. Here's the thing with me: I'm not as on top of television as I am with films, so I don't know all the shows that are going to be nominated for Emmys in a few months and everything. I can't really think of anything on the top of my head that's competition for the Pit in terms of best series. It won best series last Emmys, and Noah Wiley and Catherine Lanassa both walked away with Emmys. I think it's safe to say that they're both winning again. Noah Wiley, I think, is walking away again, but also I think Catherine Lanassa is going to walk away again too. But then you also think to yourself, is anyone from the ensemble besides the two of them going to get nominated? It would be cool if we got other nominations. Also, what's the man's name who plays Abbott? Sean, what's his name?
Sean Hatosy,
Yeah,
Hattasy, I
he
think. Yeah,
he won an Emmy for season 1 for guest
for
actor.
guest. Hmm.
So could that
Yeah, I don't know
happen
if he would be
again?
bumped up to supporting or if he's still guest. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, who knows what they're gonna do with that, but I think it's safe to say that this is gonna do well at the Emmys again. Like I think
Yeah.
that this is gonna do very nicely. I don't know what competition it has. I can't think of
Euphoria
any.
is back this year, which did
Let's be
got Zendaya an
realistic.
Oscar, but I mean an Emmy, but I don't know about anything
Let's be
else.
realistic.
Yeah,
And even
yeah,
if
and
even if Zendaya wins an Emmy again, which would be shocking, no one from this show has to worry about being in
yeah, I don't
her
think that
in
there's
that
a
competition
lead
because the
actress.
only lead actor acting nomination the show would get would be for Noah Wiley.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm trying to remember. I think last season most of its competition was Severance, which is not on this year. So, like I think didn't Tillman take supporting actor
Tramel Tillman
for that?
did, and Britt
Yeah.
Lauer took lead
Hmm.
actress, and then Adam Scott lost lead actor to Noah Wiley. Um,
Yeah, I'm trying. I think Pluribus is probably going to do well. That did well at the
oh
Globes and
yeah,
stuff.
she's winning
Ray
lead actress.
Seahorn is probably the
She's
favorite
winning lead
now.
actress. That's
Yeah,
it's not even
but
close.
again, not the same category that would
Right.
overlap with Pitt. So yeah, I think it's going to do pretty well. It'll be interesting to see if it like sustains that. If it's going to be, because it's definitely the kind of show that could go on for years. Like if it's going to continue to be an Emmy juggernaut, or if it like cools down at some point.
Yeah, totally. And I'm just glad that we're gonna get this show every year. We're not gonna have to
Seems
wait
like it. Yeah.
5,000 years for a new season and everything. So hopefully not. Hopefully we don't have to wait more than a year. I'm okay with a
Yeah.
year and a half between seasons, but more than that, no, 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 no.
Yeah. One of the few shows that like actually has been coming back on a regular schedule so far.
Exactly. Exactly. So, do you have any final thoughts for the season?
I think we covered it.
I think we
15
covered.
episodes that we crammed into less than 2 hours, so
Yeah,
not bad.
15 episodes, 15 weeks. That was very rewarding. I was very happy to be along the ride, watching it live every single Thursday night. I'm going to miss these guys. I look forward to reuniting with them again next year, early next year. Very excited to see what they do with season 3. I'm
Yeah.
very excited. It's going to feel weird on Thursday nights not watching this, but at least we have hacks for the
We have
time
hacks on
being.
Thursdays, right? Yeah.
We have hacks for the time being.
Not really the same vibe, but
Not the
still.
same vibe at all. But yeah, that's it for our thoughts on the Pitt season 2. And
Sounds
with
good.
that,
Yeah.
it's late, guys. I'm
It's
so
really
exhausted. With that, That is a wrap on today's episode of Some Like It Real. Thank you all for joining us. If you're interested in following along our journey, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at Brian Sutfield.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Vera Albarella and on Letterboxd at Alba_real_A.
And you can follow the show on all socials at Some Like It Real, as well as on YouTube at Some Like It Real. Be sure to subscribe and share it around and tune in every Monday for a new episode of Some Like It Real on podcast platforms.
We'll see you next time.